The franchise recap is on to season 23, Battle of the Seasons 2. Airing September to December 2012, 32 cast members headed to Turkey, then a few to Namibia for 12 episodes, and oh my god, they increased it $340,000 in prizes. 3 evolutions here. First, the format. They were in teams of 4 from their seasons, a la Battle of the Seasons 1, Season 5, but they played dailies in either teams of 4 or teams of 2, and they played eliminations in teams of 2. You got to pick which 2 from your team was going there. Losers went. Winners of the daily challenge got to pick the team that would join the losers in elimination, and the winners also got to pick which game those losers would play, which was a big evolution too. At first, they didn't know what those games were. They only knew their 4 choices were mental, physical, strategy, or endurance. Eventually, they knew which game went with each of those monikers. Totally new format. Totally worked perfectly, was flawless. I loved it, and I can't believe they haven't done it again. The other 2 evolutions then are both elimination related. First, the first ever true Hall Brawl. We've talked in seasons past about the kind of Hall Brawl-esque eliminations we've gotten and daily we've gotten, but now we got a true Hall Brawl for the first time ever, and multiple of them this season. And we got the greatest elimination game of all time debuted, Not So Fast, my personal favorite. There were a bunch of storylines this season. We'll run through a couple of them here as quickly as we can, but the big one that we have to start with is actually who wasn't there. Because when Battle of the Seasons was announced, there was definitely, a lot of us that were like, oh my God, there's a couple unbelievable teams that are going to be able to put together, and then some of those teams weren't there, and some of the individuals we would have expected were not there with their respective teams. The 2 standout ones, though, is one, Key West, who they'd called Janelle, Tyler, Paula, and Johnny, all champions at this point, a couple of them many times over, and they had them ready to go and then just didn't use them in the end. And the other one was Real World Sydney, who all 4 of that were going to be coming had been on a season or 2, especially Kellyanne and Dunbar, made a name for themselves in a big way, and they weren't able to go in the end. They actually went, they filmed an intro, they were told, according to Isaac's recollection, they were told he had some heart thing, he didn't pass the medical exam. When he went back to the States, they told him his heart was fine. They had tried to fly Kahut out. He wasn't able to get there in time. And so the team, they were there, they filmed an intro, and then they were cut at the last second. Having those 2 teams there would have been amazing, even if it just means up to 40 cast members. But it leaves you a little wanting with being like, those were some standout teams not there, and then a couple standout people from the teams that were also not there. But what we got, once we got past what we didn't have, what we had was pretty great. A lot of great rookie performances here. A lot of vets kind of shining in a new light with new people around them, getting to have a new role within the season. And the biggest early storyline then became something I maybe should have mentioned in Evolutions. Real World Austin and Fresh Meat were out first. All 4. Austin, Fresh Meat. No rookies were targeted to start. Everyone still hated Real World Austin. Everyone decided Fresh Meat had to go. That was a big change in how the pecking order of a season went. The Brooklyn team became kind of center stage, one of the main stories of the season. Underdog run. They had 3 elimination wins in a row early on in the season, 2 daily wins in a row late in the season to push their way all the way to a final. Sarah especially really shines here, kind of in a different role than we had seen her before. Definitely a star before, but a star on her own here without some of the usual people around her. But San Diego was the real star, the real big story. They were quite toxic. Let's not bury the lead here. It was hard to watch at times. Mostly the treatment from Frank and Zach towards Sam, but also just Frank yelling at everyone, not just his teammates, not just Sam, everyone in the house. Everyone got the smoke from Frank at some point this season. It felt like he, starts night 1 in a huge outburst, tries to get in a fight with Wes. He has many more after that. He is just completely volatile this season. And Zach is at first the calming presence. Like night 1, he's calming Frank down, but then a lot of times he ends up playing sidekick. Will also get in your face, will also threaten to fight, will also do some yelling. So those 2 super volatile. They treat Sam like shit throughout the season. Let's not mince words. A couple dailies in particular, and definitely the final. There's no positive reinforcement with those guys in this season. It's all negative reinforcement. It's all we wish you weren't here. Literally pushing her down at different points in the final. All kinds of not great behavior, which is horrible. And glad to see the both of them came a long ways in years after that in challenges and off the challenges and everything else. It did weirdly give the one redeeming element to, by the end of the season, no one was probably in the fandom was really rooting for San Diego, but then also at the same time felt amazing that Sam was winning. And so added that weird dichotomy to the end of the season. They dominated a lot. They won 4 dailies. They won the final, which also probably should have been mentioned in Evolutions, was in the desert. Was the first time that we were just like, hey, let's go to literally a desert in the equator, and you just run for, I don't even know how many miles, but a lot of miles through the desert and chained together, I think, at one point during it. It was just horrific. And so that could be an Evolution too, because that was not the last desert-based final that we got. The other couple people to mention or teams or stories, Trishelle and Dustin, very fun, very dramatic team. They got second in this and were the stars of the format twist of 2 of their teammates leaving early on, those 2 being able to stay in the game as a pair and a duo instead of a full team of 4 and make it to the end. And then 3 rookie standouts for me, Marie, Nani, and Devin, very much starred in very different ways for all 3 of them, but very much made it clear that the more you put them on the challenge, the better off we were going to be. Other memorable moments, we mentioned Frank's night 1 outburst near fight with Wes that came out of that. Speaking of Wes, Easy dismantled Wes in Hall Brawl, the first ever Hall Brawl. Not a fair fight. Anyone going against Easy was not going to have a good time. The man's just too big, too imposing, and was going to dominate this game, and he rings Wes's bell, like literally knocks his head into the bell at one of the runs. Easy, Devin, and Alton and Sarah both have little showmances here that kind of come out of nowhere, a bit surprising, but definitely worthwhile storylines and fun moments that were had. There were a lot of fights on the bus. This was kind of in the peak of getting a lot of bus scenes during the franchise that they kind of went away from down the road, but we saw a lot of bus time on this season and a lot of yelling and cursing and dramatics on the bus. The Hunger Games Daily Challenge stands out as the best of the season. TJ in full game show host mode, fun outfits, fun accents, all kinds of stuff. And it was an eating challenge, but one with a fun spin on it. They had to, bet basically on what they could eat in what amount of time of a bunch of different gross stuff. Really, really great. And then the biggest moment of the season, arguably one of the bigger moments, biggest elimination moments in challenge history, was the Hall Brawl between Zach and Sam and CJ and Jasmine. That really came down to Zach and CJ. Sam dominates Jasmine as expected. Sam, I think, would have beat probably any of the women on this season in the Hall Brawl, and especially Jasmine, who had just horrible luck, has to do this Hall Brawl versus Sam, and then later down the line we'll go against Laurel in a balls in. Tough spot for her, but this was a best of 3. The women went, best of 3, the men went, and then if and when it ended up being a tie, they did a second or a coin flip for the 3rd round. So Sam won her round. Zach lost both to CJ. This is rookie Zach, Thor, nicknamed Zach, just coming off of the football field. Zach, one of the best athletes we've ever seen, loses 0-2 to CJ in his first round. The coin flip, it lands on the guys. They got to go again. CJ wins the first one again, is now technically up 3-0, but in this final round is only up 1-0 in a best of 3. Zach hurdles them the next time, blows right through him the last time, wins for his team. Technically, CJ still can hold his head high. 3 out of 5, kind of actually won, but when it counted, Zach won the ones he had to, propels their team to a season victory, and is definitely one of, if not still, the best Hall Brawl we've ever gotten, the most intense and exhilarating Hall Brawl we've ever gotten. I still get edge of my seat just watching it, rewatching it on YouTube. So that was definitely the moment of the season. It's a great format. It's super dramatic. It's missing some obvious teams that kind of hold it back, and the bad behavior of the champions make it not super fun to root for them at all times. So those things bring the season down a little bit. It's definitely a good season. I can't go higher than the good tier. I wrestled B-, B-, B, ultimately ending up on a B. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on the upcoming Battle of the Eras recaps and coverage. Thanks for watching. Come back tomorrow for Rivals 2.